Ever wish your coding assistant could, like, do more than just suggest that next line of code? You know?
Yeah.
Like, imagine it actually following a structured workflow,
Yeah.
like a real-life developer. Well, someone actually put this to the test with GitHub Copilot.
Okay.
And today we are diving deep into the results.
It's a fascinating experiment, really.
Yeah.
Think about it. We rely on structured workflows in software development, right?
Right.
For consistency, accountability,
Yeah.
continuous improvement.
Makes sense.
But can an AI actually grasp these concepts
Yeah.
and operate within these frameworks?
That's a great question.
That's the big question here.
To make it even more interesting, the source material introduces this awesome fictional world called Planet Codex, powered by Reactium, which is their version of React. They even have a Planetary Defense Corps that relies on tools like Copilot to battle bugs and keep the digital world running smoothly.
Clever. It's a clever way to frame the experiment.
Yeah.
So within this fictional world,
Okay.
they set Copilot a challenge to see if it could act like a disciplined developer, following a strict workflow.
So what did this workflow entail?
So before even starting to code, Copilot was supposed to review all the relevant documents, project requirements, planning notes, progress reports, the whole shebang.
Wow, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
Then during the coding phase,
Yeah.
it had to stick to the rules and constraints outlined in those documents.
Okay.
And finally, after completing a task, it had to update those documents with what it did, any challenges it encountered.
Okay.
And get this, what it learned along the way.
Oh, wow.
Pretty ambitious.
Yeah, very ambitious.
Yeah.
It sounds like they were really trying to push Copilot beyond its comfort zone of just generating code snippets.
Exactly.
So how did it handle this pre-task preparation?
Well,
could it actually, like, do its homework?
Right.
And absorb all that information?
Well, that's where things got a little tricky.
Okay.
Turns out,
Yeah.
Copilot isn't the best at remembering things from past tasks.
Interesting.
It lacked the memory to automatically review those documents and connect the dots. The researchers had to give it very specific instructions.
Oh, right.
Even pasting relevant information directly into the chat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Copilot needs a bit of hand-holding.
Right.
Kind of like a junior developer who needs a senior engineer to point them in the right direction.
Exactly.
What's the key takeaway here?
The key takeaway is that while Copilot excels at real-time code suggestions, it struggles with persistent memory and synthesizing information from multiple sources. This suggests that current AI models might struggle with truly understanding the context of a project.
That makes sense.
They're great at following instructions, but not so good at independent reasoning.
It's still early days for AI encoding, and there are bound to be limitations.
Of course.
So moving on to task execution.
Sure.
How did Copilot perform when it came to actually writing the code?
Right.
Could it stay within the lines and follow the rules outlined in those documents?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Copilot did a decent job overall, but there were definitely some hiccups.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like what?
It would sometimes suggest code that directly violated the constraints laid out in the requirements.
So it's like it knew the rules, but chose to ignore them sometimes.
Precisely.
Wow.
The researchers give this great example where Copilot was building a navigation function for a PDF viewer. The requirements document clearly stated the need for page boundary conditions, but Copilot just went ahead and ignored them. This could have led to a nasty out-of-bounds error.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
For sure.
So how did the researchers get Copilot back on track?
Well,
do they have to give it a, digital timeout?
Not quite a timeout,
Okay.
but they did have to constantly remind Copilot of the constraints.
Oh.
Almost like giving it a digital leash.
Interesting.
They'd use very directive prompts, like you must follow the constraints in the requirements document, or check your output against these rules.
Okay.
They even had to ask Copilot to double-check its own work sometimes.
Wow, so Copilot needs a firm hand and clear boundaries to stay focused.
It does.
It's like a brilliant but slightly unruly student who needs constant reminders to stay on task.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It highlights a crucial point.
Okay.
Copilot has the potential to be incredibly powerful, but it doesn't inherently validate its output against predefined rules. It requires that human guidance and direction to stay on course.
Okay, so we've seen some of Copilot's weaknesses.
Right.
It struggles with pre-task preparation and needs constant reminders to stay within the lines during task execution.
Right.
But the researchers didn't give up on it, did they?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
They came up with a clever solution inspired by their Planet Codex scenario.
Okay.
They decided to create a React style guide.
What's that?
That acted as a sort of digital shield guiding Copilot towards more robust and resilient code.
A React style guide.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is exactly?
Think of it as a set of rules.
Okay.
Best practices and coding conventions, specifically for React.
Okay.
It laid down the law on everything from component structure and styling to state management and testing.
Interesting.
Essentially a blueprint for writing good, clean React code.
So they were basically trying to reprogram Copilot and align it with the principles of good React development.
Exactly.
Did it work? Did this style guide actually influence Copilot's behavior?
Well, to answer that, we need to talk about the Codex mandate.
Okay.
A set of specific instructions they embedded within the style guide.
Interesting.
And to hear about that, you'll have to wait for part 2 of our deep dive.
That's right. We'll be back soon to reveal whether this Codex mandate actually tamed the beast and turned Copilot into a model coding citizen.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of AI-powered coding and structured workflows.
Before we went on our little cliffhanger, we were talking about the React style guide.
Right.
And this mysterious Codex mandate. The researchers' attempts to guide Copilot toward more disciplined coding.
Yeah.
Did their strategy work? Did Copilot shape up and start writing better code?
The results were actually quite promising.
Okay.
Think back to the Planet Codex analogy. With the React style guide and the Codex mandate.
Okay.
It's like the Planetary Defense Corps finally had a clear strategy for fending off those nasty bugs and digital threats.
So you're saying that with these guidelines in place, Copilot started producing code that was more in line with the React best practices.
Exactly.
More modular, maintainable, all that good stuff.
All that good stuff.
Okay, so tell me more about this Codex mandate.
Okay.
What kind of instructions did it include?
Well, it was remarkably comprehensive, covering a whole range of important principles.
Like what?
Component structure. The mandate stressed the single responsibility principle, meaning each component should have one clear purpose.
Got it.
It also encouraged Copilot to favor small reusable components over large complex ones. Styling. Inline styles were strictly forbidden. Copilot was directed to use CSS modules. For consistency and maintainability, state management, Copilot was instructed to use local state for component-specific UI changes, and Redux for managing the global state of the application.
Got it.
Testing. The mandate emphasized the importance of testing and instructed Copilot to use the testing library, focusing on testing from the user's perspective rather than internal code details.
Interesting.
Code quality. Copilot was constantly reminded to use clear naming conventions. Write helpful comments, handle errors gracefully, and prioritize performance optimization.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
It sounds like they really thought of everything.
They really did.
But I have to ask,
Sure.
Were there any challenges?
Well,
I mean, AI is constantly evolving, right?
Right.
Did the researchers have to constantly update the React style guide and the Codex mandate to keep up with Copilot's learning curve?
You're absolutely right to bring that up. Yeah, it wasn't a set it and forget it kind of solution. The researchers discovered that they needed to keep refining the style guide and the mandate as Copilot evolved.
Interesting.
It was a continuous process of learning and adaptation for both the AI and the humans working with it.
So even with these helpful guides, it still requires human oversight.
It does.
We can't just unleash Copilot on a project and expect perfect code without any intervention.
That's a crucial insight.
Yeah.
AI coding assistants like Copilot are incredibly powerful tools, but they're not autonomous coding machines.
Makes sense.
We need to be actively involved in the process,
Yep.
monitoring Copilot's output, providing feedback, and adjusting instructions as needed to ensure it aligns with our standards and project requirements.
This is all super interesting.
Yes, it is.
But let's get practical. What does this mean for everyday developers out there? Who might be considering using Copilot or other AI coding tools?
Right.
What are the key takeaways?
Well, first and foremost, remember that AI can be an incredible productivity booster and a real asset when it comes to improving code quality.
Yeah.
But it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
AI isn't going to magically solve all our development problems.
Yeah.
And it certainly won't replace human developers anytime soon.
So we still need to be in the driver's seat.
We do.
Guiding and shaping the AI's behavior, making sure it understands the context of the project and stays on track.
Precisely.
And luckily, the researchers shared some very practical tips.
They did.
On how to 10x your Copilot efficiency.
Yes.
Tips that are directly inspired by the Planet Codex experiment.
Right.
Want to hear them?
Let's hear them.
Absolutely. Give me all the juicy details.
All right.
How can we make sure Copilot is our helpful ally,
right,
and not just another source of coding headaches?
The first tip is to always use structured prompts.
Okay.
Remember how Copilot needed constant reminders about the Codex mandate?
Yeah, I do.
Well, it's the same in real-world coding scenarios.
Okay.
Don't be vague with your instructions.
Got it.
Tell Copilot exactly what you want it to do, what rules it needs to follow, and what constraints it needs to operate within.
So be bossy with your AI.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
What else?
The next tip is to feed Copilot context before it starts working on a task.
Okay.
Paste in relevant snippets from your requirements docs, planning notes, even previous code examples.
Okay.
The more information Copilot has, the better it will understand the bigger picture.
It's like prepping Copilot for a big exam.
Right.
Making sure it's studied all the necessary material before tackling the test.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, here's a really interesting tip.
Yeah.
Encourage Copilot to self-verify its work after it generates a chunk of code.
Yeah.
Ask it something like, does this meet all the requirements?
Yeah.
Or are there any potential errors here?
Okay.
Prompt Copilot to double-check its own logic.
That's brilliant.
It is.
It's like having a built-in code reviewer,
right,
even if it is a digital one.
Exactly.
What's the last tip?
This one might seem a bit bureaucratic, but it's incredibly helpful.
Okay.
Use templates for documenting progress, challenges, and lessons learned.
Okay.
Having a consistent structure for this documentation keeps you and Copilot organized and creates a shared knowledge base for your coding adventures.
So we need to treat Copilot more like a junior developer than a senior architect.
That's right.
Provide guidance, set clear expectations, and offer consistent feedback.
That's an excellent way to summarize it.
Yeah.
Copilot has enormous potential, but it needs our help to reach it.
We need to be patient, supportive mentors, willing to guide and nurture its development.
Okay, so we've uncovered a lot of valuable insights.
Right.
We've seen Copilot's strengths and weaknesses, explored the React style guide and the Codex mandate, and even learned practical tips for maximizing Copilot's efficiency.
Yes.
But what's the big takeaway? Is Copilot a game changer, or is it just another fancy coding toy? What should our listeners be thinking about as they ponder this brave new world of AI-powered coding?
That's a good question. So is it a revolutionary tool?
Yeah.
That will change the way we code forever?
Right.
Or is it just another shiny new gadget that will eventually fade into the background?
That's the question everyone's asking, isn't it?
It is.
And honestly, the answer's probably a bit of both.
Yeah, I think so.
Copilot has the potential to be a game changer. It can definitely make you a more efficient and effective coder.
Yeah. But it's not going to magically transform you into a coding superhero overnight. So it's a powerful tool.
Right.
But it's not a magic wand.
Yeah.
We can't just expect Copilot to solve all our problems without any effort on our part.
Right. Think of it like this.
Okay.
Copilot is like a high-performance race car. It's capable of incredible speed and agility,
Yeah.
but it requires a skilled driver to handle it properly.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So we developers need to become those skilled drivers.
Yeah.
We need to understand Copilot's strengths and limitations. And we need to know how to use it effectively.
That's precisely what this deep dive has been all about.
Yeah.
Remember those key takeaways we discussed?
I do.
Structured prompts, context, self-verification, documentation.
Okay.
These are the techniques that will help you unlock Copilot's true potential and make it a valuable asset in your coding workflow.
You know, this whole experiment really got me thinking. They focused on React.
Yeah.
Which makes sense given its popularity.
Right.
But what about other frameworks and languages? Would Copilot perform just as well with, say, Python or Java?
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And it's one that the source material doesn't explicitly address.
Okay.
But it raises a really important point for the future of AI-powered coding. The React style guide and the Codex mandate were specifically designed for React development.
So are you saying that we need to create similar guides for every single framework and language out there?
That's right.
Could we even adapt the principles of the Codex mandate to a language like Python or Java?
That's the challenge we need to tackle as a developer community. As AI coding tools become more widely adopted, we need to figure out how to integrate them into different workflows and coding ecosystems.
It's almost like we need a universal codex mandate, a set of guidelines that could be adapted to any framework or language.
No, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where every coding language had its own codex.
Yeah.
A set of AI-powered best practices and guidelines that help developers write better, more efficient code.
Okay.
It would revolutionize the way we approach software development.
And it wouldn't just be about following rules.
Right.
It would be about harnessing the power of AI.
Exactly.
To learn from our collective experience, to identify patterns, and to constantly evolve the way we code.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the possibilities.
Yeah, me too.
But it's also underscored our responsibility as developers.
Okay.
AI is a powerful force.
Right.
And it's up to us to use it wisely, ethically, and with a constant focus on improvement.
So to all our listeners out there, we leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The future of coding is being shaped by AI. And we have the incredible opportunity to be active participants in this transformation.
For sure.
Embrace these new tools. Explore their potential.
Right.
But always remember to be the ones in control.
Yeah.
Be the skilled drivers who guide and shape the future of software development.
And never stop exploring. Learning. And diving deep into the fascinating world of code.
Until next time.
Right.
Happy coding, everyone.